All right, everybody, welcome back to Two Marine Dads, and this is week 7. No, not week 7. Episode 7 of the podcast.
And week 7.
John's in town again for Christmas. We're a little bit late. Sunday he was traveling, and yesterday we both had some stuff to do, so Tuesday we're recording. We'll get it out to you as soon as we can. We appreciate everybody for showing up. Today I wanted to talk about the COVID bill and what was passed, and basically how absolutely awful our governmental system is, and this shows what it is. For those that are watching on YouTube, right here you see a chat. That's because we're live on Twitch right now, so you'll see people talking and bantering and yada 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 up here. Hopefully I don't have to go back and post edit and blurt any nastiness out, but we'll see. We've already had to get rid of one guy.
Accusing us of war crimes.
And being snowflakes.
Yeah, snowflakes. Oh.
But, so for those that aren't aware, Congress passed, it hasn't been signed by Trump yet, and we'll get there, but they passed a $900 billion COVID relief bill, which sounds good. All right, let's give relief to the people. You know, everybody's going to get $600, man, woman, and child, and a little bit more for other circumstances. But more importantly, Pakistan gets $10 million for gender studies. Israel gets $500 million for something. There's another $450 that goes to Ukraine, which they've been in the news as of lately. The Sudan gets $700 million. Egypt's $1.3 billion. All super related shit to COVID. And this isn't a left or a right, a Republican or Democrat thing. This is a statement of how absolutely shattered our governmental system is right now. And it's, in my opinion, we as a population are getting what we deserve. We're getting the government we deserve right now. Because people won't get along, people won't talk, people don't try to understand each other. And what that allows the government to do, and the bureaucrats and the politicians, is to do whatever the hell they want. And this is what they do. They buy favors with Israel or Egypt or Ukraine.
Right.
Why we give any money to Pakistan at all anymore astounds me. But it's another video all in itself. The bill... And the way it's done is it's done in a bill that nobody's going to want to vote against. Who wants to be the guy voting against COVID-19 relief, especially after everything that's happened, and wants to have that campaign ad run against him? Senator so-and-so voted against COVID-19 relief. And that's all the ad will say. And half people look at it and go, wow, that guy's an asshole. He voted against COVID-19 relief? And not go, wait, what do you mean he voted? Why would he vote against it? Let me go look and see why he voted against it.
Maybe there's a specific spot in.
No, they'll just go, well, this guy's obviously, this guy just wants to throw grandma off a cliff. He hates people. That's why he voted against it. That's where we end up, because we don't talk to each other.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They give you, what was it? AOC was the one who came up and said she had 5 or 6 hours to read a 5,593 page document and make her decision. It was like one of the few times, I think the only time I've ever agreed with her, and the fact that she can make a great margarita. But other than that, I mean, like, she's right.
Have you ever had one of her margaritas?
No, I guess
you can't say that.
You're right, I lied. But just the point being, like, she's right. How do you digest 6,000 pages in 4 hours or 5 hours and then and make and make a cognitive decision on it? You don't. And that's the point. Just like you said, keep it down, and then you can say, "Oh, well, this guy said no," or you didn't even have time to say no. He had to say yes, so he didn't look like he said no.
Right.
Which is even worse.
And this is just the beginning. This bill is almost 5,600 pages. 5,600 pages.
Right.
And I think like a tenth of it is going to giving money back to people, and then there's a big chunk of it that things like unemployment benefits, right? I'm fine with that. I'm not huge on big government. I don't like big government, but the situation we live in right now, things like unemployment benefits need to get extended. That's fine. The PPP loans, they've gotten better. They're still not perfect. There's still fucking problems with them, but they're needed. It's helping. It's keeping people employed. It's keeping businesses open through this basically unprecedented pandemic. And that stuff is fine. But the very fact of the matter was that they stuffed all this in there, and all to give people $600. I mean, it's not like we're giving you $600 a week. It's not like we're giving you $600 a month. You're going to get one check for $600, $1,200 if your wife, and $600 for each of your kids.
Yep.
That's going to do what? So a family of 4 is going to be able to pay rent and maybe their bills. That doesn't cover all your expenses. And it took them fucking 9 months to do this, or whenever. How long has it been since the last one? 5 months?
Yeah, about 5 months. Yeah. And Nancy Pelosi.
And the worst part is what they're doing is they are taking money away from you, and they're paying themselves their lavish salaries, their benefits, and the politicians and the bureaucrats, all of the stuff that they do, and then they give you money back that's yours after they've taxed it.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you know what? You're going to pay taxes on the money they're giving you.
Oh, yeah.
They're giving you $600, and you will pay taxes on that $600.
Correct. Yep, next year. They'll deduct it. They'll take it out of your deductions next year.
Now, I guess I can't say that 100% for sure, but I'm 95% sure you're going to pay taxes on that.
I was told they're going to take it away from your deductions next year. So you might not necessarily pay taxes on it, but you won't be able to deduct that extra money. It'll go against your deductions in a negative. Or I guess it's a positive.
But no, snoozer, nobody could read that entire bill in a week. It's 5,000 pages, dude. 5,600 pages.
Yeah.
So the whole point is and for those that are listening on the podcast, I'm gonna try to do better of it because you guys aren't watching, but we have a live chat interacting with us. So I'll say somebody's name, not a real name. It's kind of online ID stuff, and how they talk. So if you guys see that, that's what it is. Apologize if it's confusing. We'll try to limit it as much as we can. But
5,600 pages in a week would be 800 pages a day
of legal text,
and then understand and then digest text. What it means.
And half of those words are referencing another bill that you would have to go read to understand what it's changing. Correct. They did that with the I think it's DMCA. I can't remember the exact bill they did, but it's a copyright bill. And it affects guys like me that are doing online content creation now, and John with YouTube. So there's a lot of people in this industry that they do what's kind of like in real life streaming. They just kind of walk around on the street and they talk, and they're entertaining, and people are watching them. Well, if they walk past an open bar that's playing Rihanna or some top 10 list music, I don't think it's top 10. I don't know. I can't even spell Rihanna.
Anything copyright.
But anything that's copyright protected and the music world wants to go after them, that used to just be, okay, we can come after you for money and this, that, and the other, which is fine. Yeah. Now, because of this, inside this bill, they stuck it in here. It's a felony now. It's way more complicated this, and I'm going to oversimplify it, but potentially people could end up going to jail because they were walking around streaming, doing what John and I are doing right now.
Right. With something copyrighted in the back. Correct.
So this is just, and this is just all we've gotten into the last day. I haven't dug into it myself very much yet. I've just been looking at what some of the other people that dive in and do a lot of this stuff. That's John and I have just kind of been pulling our information from a bunch of different sources. But this isn't the only bill this is done with. But it's a prime example of how people will stuff really bad stuff into a bill that nobody's going to want to vote against. They did the stimulus bill in 2008 is another example of how much stuff was stuffed into there that was corrupt and awful. There's other arguments against pork and for pork and this, that, and the other, but things like, the F-22, when it was built, I think it was built in like 12 states.
Oh, yeah.
Like different parts were built in different states and then put together. You can't tell me that's the most efficient way to build that aircraft.
No,
that was done because
I made so many jobs.
Exactly, because somebody wanted to make jobs in a factory.
Right.
And as long as everybody is stuck on their guy being right and never being wrong, like for example, there's a lot of Trump supporters that think Trump has never done anything wrong.
Oh no, he's
done that it was never done anything. If he did something wrong, it was justifiable. The ends justify the means, and it's that way on the left as well. I mean, you look at the CDC was going to give vaccine priority based on race and not need, based on preventing as much death as possible. Now because of the insane public blowback that happened to that's been since changed, and they're going to do what they're supposed to do now. But it's not incumbent on the opposite team to hold your side accountable, because they don't have to. They don't need to listen to the other side because they're not going to vote for him anyways. and all they do is attack them. So why listen to them? The Republican voters it's our job to hold our representatives accountable. And when they don't do something they're supposed to do, like pass a bullshit bill like this,
right, go through it and say no,
call your representative and be like, what in the hell are you doing? The COVID bill's fine. I don't have a problem with the COVID bill. I mean, I do. I mean, correct that. I do have problems. There's a lot of things in there but they're not something that couldn't be or discussed through and fixed. What I have a problem with is most of the bill has nothing to do with COVID. It's called the COVID-19 bill, and it's not the majority of the bill.
Right. We get $600, and Egypt gets $1.3 billion for their military. Why? Like, I don't get it.
Israel has. I get Israel's a huge ally of ours, and they need money. That's fine. Put a bill in that supports Israel by itself.
We have. It's called Iron
Argue
Dome.
all of these things on their own merits. Don't tie them into something else and make somebody a bad guy because they voted against it. I mean, people expect Rand Paul to have voted against this, and he did. Rand Paul was one of like 6 or 7 Republicans who voted against it.
6 of them, yeah.
And that's expected of him. And look, he does just fine. Nobody's attacking Rand Paul because he voted against it. They don't even dare try because they know he'll run circles around him in conversation. But at the same time, you don't see people on CNN. If this was a wholly Republican bill, if this was just Republicans, right?
Yeah, this would be
and it went through a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate, all right, a Republican House and a Republican Senate and Congress, you would see this thing picked away 3 ways from Sunday. They'd be calling senators out by name because they own stock in this company, and this company got something out of this bill, and it might not even be nefarious. It might just be totally legit. It just happens because the guy has a retirement fund that has funds in 6,000 different companies. But they would go at him. They would pick that apart. And the media as a whole, the main media, is not going to hold Democrats responsible ever. Nope. So now the Democrats aren't going to be held accountable for some of the stuff that they signed on to. And we'll find more. There's going to be some off. I guarantee you this isn't the worst. The worst shit is the hard stuff to find. There's far more coming.
Yeah, there's hypocrisy in here. You have $15 million. Was it 15 million or 15 billion? I think it was 15 billion with a B. $15 billion to go against live gig people. So you're like your musicians and your I guess your comics, your stand-up guys, stuff like that. People who are doing concerts. I guess anybody from Metallica all the way down to the guy in the corner at your local bar. And they're like, yeah, we want to bail these guys out. At the same time, Nancy Pelosi, as of January 1st, 2020, she passed a lot with a big push from her. What they call California Assembly Bill 5, AB 5, which makes you 1099 any employee. So if you're a bar owner and you want live music, you got to 1099 that guy. And then if that guy comes in as a singer and he's like, man, I'd really like to have like a rhythm guitarist behind me, he can't just call his buddy for $200 and give it to him. He's got to 1099 them, along with giving them insurance and along with giving workman's comp, all the rest of it that comes along with it. It's not just here's $200, come out and play a gig with me. It's you've taken him out of or her out of the job. Your Lyft drivers, your Uber drivers, all this in California, they're like, yeah, but we want to help you. And at the same time, they pass bullshit like this that says, no, we don't want to help you.
And it speaks volume to their state of mind, right? For a long time, I just chalked it up as politicians are dumb. They've never run a business. They're ignorant of the problems, right? They're dumb. No, that's not it at all. Know. That might be true as well, but the bigger thing that they have is they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't care about the little people. They are doing things right now actively every day with their mandates and their lockdowns and all the stuff they're doing because it doesn't affect them.
Yeah, and they still made $130,000.
They are making plenty of money. They are doing just fine.
Yep.
And so in their mind, they're making themselves safer at the expense of everybody else around them. I mean, think about it like this, right? All of the people passing these lockdowns and pushing these lockdowns, and we've seen it. It hits the news everywhere, and it's funny that it hits the news because it's these politicians, these governors, these health officials, even health officials, the most hypocritical group that could be doing it are going out to public restaurants. They're not afraid of the virus. They're doing their thing. They're not wearing masks. They're hanging out with large groups of people. They're bringing their family in from all over the country. All the stuff that none of us are supposed to be doing. They're doing it.
Right.
And they're safe doing it because they've locked everybody else down. So the chance of them catching the virus is small. So at the end of the day, they're enriching themselves and they're making their lives normal by punishing everybody else. And if that's not evil, I don't know what is. I mean, there's people out there that are committing suicide, people that are losing everything they've ever built up in their entire lives, losing it all.
Yep.
And Congress's thing is, here's $600.
You have to bail you out. Yep. By the way, we're going to give 10 times that, 100,000 times that to foreign countries. Your dollars are going overseas.
We're going to give $500 million to Israel. And I'm only picking on Israel because it's the biggest.
They're probably one of the richest nations. They are. One
they
of the
have
richest
nationalized
nations
health care. So again, why are we giving them money in a COVID-19 relief bill?
Right.
So
I don't get it.
And it shows you what they think the common person thinks is a lot of money. They think they are going to be able to satiate everybody, and this is going to make everybody quiet because they gave us $600 per person. You know, I'm going to get $2,400, I think, maybe more.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
because I have 3 kids. Yeah.
But no, you'll get 20. You'll get 3,000.
I thought I said up to. Well, maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe it is up to.
Up to 24. A family of 4 can make up to.
Oh, so yeah, I don't know. So you get a little bit more, but it's
Mia doesn't count. Yeah. Even though it's my money they're spending.
And I'm not a virologist. I'm not a doctor. There's still stuff about the COVID-19 virus that is scary. The long-term effects of what the potential long-term effects of this virus are legit.
We don't know.
You might not ever get really sick from it. You might have recovered from it, but you could actually have brain damage. You know, there's some people that may never get their sense of smell or taste back. There's huge potential problems with heart problems, testicular problems, because of and they don't know yet because this virus attacks very specific things, and those things all include testes, heart, and brain.
Right.
And there might not be any. And the long-term issues of this for even healthy people are not going to be understood for many, many, many years to come. So there still is a concern for COVID-19. But on the other side, you have to weigh that against the cost of your actions that you're doing. Is what you're doing worth the cost of what you're achieving? And nobody's having that conversation. We can't have it. Because if you talk about it, you're either called a COVID-19 denier or you're a horrible person, or you got some Karen screaming in your face because you don't have a mask on.
Oh, God, yeah. I told you that happened to me in California. Yeah. That lady, I'll never forget it. 2 grown men standing there like in line. This is before they mandated you had to wear a mask. She's like, put your effing masks on. She's like, wow, you're about like 120
like
pounds. You're like 70 years old, and you got the
that day we were leaving the grocery store. That one lady. What happened? I don't even remember what happened.
She got racist with the Hispanic lady that
was
like the manager. Right. Yeah, she was like,
I'm going to call green card. Yeah. I'm going to call the INS.
I was like, looked at this fat slob, and I'm like, this lady works harder than you in an hour.
This fat-ass lady's in one of them little fucking powered carts driving around, screaming at the manager of a grocery store.
And probably because her EBT card didn't work, or something stupid. This lady works harder than her in an hour, and providing groceries and everything, and she's going to get racial with her. Yeah, I yelled at her. I was like, what the F? Like, what? Like, you're joking, right? But... no, the worst. Here's the irony of the whole thing. They lock you down and they say, unless you're having a peaceful protest, which Tyler and I are doing right now. That's why we're closer than 6 feet. But I read this morning that in Oregon, right-wing, I guess, conservative protesters stormed the Capitol building, and immediately, boom! I mean, immediately, the National Guard was called out. They were like, we got to quell. This is an unlawful assembly. But you could set fire to every federal building. You can take Chaz. You can take blocks of the city hostage. Create your own roaming military, paramilitary thing. Put up your own walls, your own border checkpoints, and that's okay if you're on the correct side of what they want you to be. But the moment you do the exact same thing, within minutes, they're like unlawful assembly and move you out.
There's no talk about the huge spike in cases that happen in the summertime. Nobody's drawing that to the protests. And that's what showed you that a lot of the politicians didn't take it serious. It wasn't just that they didn't take it seriously. Even though they should have, they didn't take it seriously because they were saying all of this stuff about how horrible it is. But as soon as it was politically advantageous for them to allow for these protests, or at least what they thought was going to be, they just let it happen. Yep. They didn't shut it down. There was no talk about how unsafe it was.
Correct.
I mean, I remember I was watching after the election, I think it was in New York, these girls were dancing around the street celebrating because Biden had won. The media had called the election for Biden. And she's wearing a mask. And she pops a bottle of champagne, pulls her mask down, drinks the bottle of champagne, puts her mask back up, and then hands the bottle of champagne to somebody else to drink.
Masks are effective. What? Dude, you can't make it up.
I don't know if this is real. I saw a video today, or was it this morning? It might have been last night. I saw a video of this chick, and she's got like Gucci clothes on. She's walking her little Chihuahua dog, and I'm pretty sure it's in California because there's palm trees, right? And she's walking behind with her dog, and her dog squats down and takes a little turd on the ground. You know those little Tootsie Roll turd. And there's somebody, somebody's recording this thing. She takes her mask off, flips it to where the outside's there, uses the outside to pick up the dog poop and throw it in a trash can right next to it, and then puts the mask back on.
Oh,
I mean,
that's gotta be staged, right? No one in the right mind would.
All I can say is that video had better not be fucking real. But that's the problem. We live in a day and age where it could be.
It could be. It could be. Yeah. Like, oh, this is perfectly okay. That turd doesn't have COVID. What are we saying?
Little we know, poo stops COVID.
Who knows, man? She may have figured it out. I guess what was it? Penicillin was by accident.
Oh yeah.
Like dropped into the little petri dish, and they're like, oh, well, maybe it's poo.
Yeah, the lady,
Chihuahua poo.
The lady that, and I have to go. The woman who discovered X-rays basically discovered X-rays. Right. Her body is locked in a lead casket because she exposed herself to so much goddamn radiation. Yeah. You can't get next to her body.
Yeah.
And like she's a hero. Like she had helped invented X-rays, which is helped revolutionize medicine. Yep. But I could be wrong, but I'm pretty. Yeah, no, she killed herself, but I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure her body is so radioactive it's in a lead encased casket, and it might even be in a museum somewhere, like Stalin style. I'm trying to think. I might be misremembering that, but
I've got
the accidental stuff that comes like that.
We talk about our freedoms here, and we talk about how it's being infringed here in the United States. I've got a friend of mine. He works for the PBR and
PBR,
yeah,
professional bull riders.
Yeah,
okay,
rodeo. Yeah,
yeah.
He's an announcer.
He's got
a real deep voice and everything like this, and we make him say silly shit on the radio all the time. It's pretty funny. We're like, say I'm a little teapot, and he does it. No, great guy, but he's friends with folks up in Canada, and he was saying that up there, the laws are much, much more restrictive for the COVID. Yep. So, like, where we think we've got it bad here, up there, you can be arrested.
Well, think about Montana, right? Something people a lot of say in Montana is, my kids are going to school.
Oh, yeah, our kids are going to school, which is why we're here.
Places in the country where kids still aren't going to school.
California.
I mean, could you fathom if your kids weren't going to school?
No, it'd be insane right now.
We're
my wife would be at her wit's end.
Yeah. We were financially well enough that the pandemic has not... It's affected us. I'm not saying it hasn't. What I'm saying is that I'm far better off than other people are. And we had the luxury of our kids being at home was mild inconvenience for us. Our kids going back to school is more of a concern for their well-being, their mental well-being, and their socializing. But
if your job opens up, but your kid's at home, so therefore, but daycare's closed, so then you can't go back to work.
Well, it was one of the things they were talking about the nurses, right? With schools, something like 60% of nurses or something like that are single moms,
which is why they become nurses,
and
so they can do both.
Well, and it's like, what is she supposed to do? There's nobody to watch her kid. Now we don't have nurses that can't go into the hospital.
Right. But no, he was saying that up there, and I did a little research on this, and it's not exactly untrue. He was saying that. That you can be arrested. So if you refuse, this vaccine's coming out, you refuse. Here in the United States, if you're a detriment to yourself or you're a detriment to others, like physically you have a gun in your hand, you can be arrested. But if you're walking around and you're not making sense, you're not even being violent, you're just not making sense. It's 100 degrees out and you're wearing a trench coat or something, and a cop talks to you and you're not making sense, you're speaking gibberish to him or something, they can Baker Act you because you're a threat to yourself. You're in a condition that it's not conducive to being a healthy person. Yeah. So we can Baker Act you, but there's that set of rules that says, hey, we need to get you medical treatment. So therefore we're gonna place you under arrest and we're gonna get you some treatment. There, if you say no to this vaccine that's coming out, they can say no, and it's the equivalency of being Baker Acted. They just slap you, cuffs on you, and put you with other people who refuse to get vaccinated.
Well, the worst part is in the United States, at least they're open about that. Like, that's the law. It's cut and dry. That's what it is.
Right.
You know it. In the United States, they can't do that.
Right. That would.
But you know what they're
illegal.
going to do? They're going to say your kids can't go to school. They're going to say you can't fly. They're going to say you can't It might
I
even
haven't
get
seen that yet.
You
but-
might see states say you can't come. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if see California and New York say if you don't have papers, you can't come. Think about it, dude.
Yeah,
if you don't have
that's
papers,
what Canada's doing. Canada's got what they call an immunity passport. So your immunity can determine whether or not you can
that's
go
what
to work or
California
whether
and
you
New
can
York.
travel.
I guarantee you, you'll see
Yep.
California and New York do it.
But that would be unconstitutional here. There, that's the law now.
Well, it's because they don't have a That's the thing.
Because we like to call them free. Oh, they got freedom. No, they don't. No, they do not. They are absolutely.
They don't have freedom of speech. I mean,
Nope.
that's the whole reason Jordan Peterson is a person as the notoriety he does is because
he stepped out
Canada
against it.
wanted to put him in. I don't want to say they wanted to put him in jail. He spoke out about how Canada was going to be able to put people in jail because you would misgender somebody.
Right. Yeah, people who are not amused may be excluded from certain social/work environments where causing others risk is unacceptable. He also added that if actions, let's see here, as that if actions ever had to be taken against the individual, they would probably be in the form of isolation, quarantine, or directly observed treatment. Directly observed treatment. In other words, we slap the cuffs on you and we put you into an internment camp, aka a concentration camp. I mean, that's not too far. That's not a stretch. I'm not being dramatic here. That's what it says. You know, like, that's absurd.
I mean, the Democrats have done it in the past because you were Japanese.
Because you were Japanese, right, or German, right? Like, it's absurd. You know, but I hope that doesn't happen here. You know, it would be traumatic if that happened here.
You know,
we have guns in this country.
And this is just one bill. That's the thing that really bothers me about this, because I've been watching this since I've become politically active, which was many, many years ago.
Okay.
It was towards the end of my Marine Corps, because when you're in the Marine Corps, when you're actually active duty, you can't be political. I mean, you can hold political beliefs, but you can't. You can't go to rallies. You can't. I mean, you can, but you don't want to.
No, you're a property of the Marine Corps.
Well, as long as you're not wearing a uniform and you're not trying to, you can go to a political rally, but you're still a gray area there.
Yeah,
you could still get in trouble. Right. So everybody just stays away from it.
You have no freedom of speech in the Marine Corps.
And
don't.
So towards the end of that, and it just so happened that was right when Obama was getting elected. Me becoming aware of politics was at the tail end of the George Bush administration. And it was one of the biggest awakening things I had, because I realized how much the George Bush administration did that I disagreed with. Specifically when it came to the Bush administration started the bailouts. It wasn't Obama. Yeah. It was a Bush administration that started the bailouts prior to, during the crash, the whole process of 2007, 2008, 2009, and trailing into 12.
Oh, I remember thinking $400 billion. It's like, who's going to pay for that? And now, like, the numbers are like quadruple that.
You know, everybody, and that's something I don't agree with. Trump blew up the deficit.
$2 trillion.
But at the end of the day, Obama spent more in 1 year than the entire country had in its history.
And I got
in debt.
And I got into it with one of our liberal buddies. He's actually quite articulate and backs his points up. I don't agree with him, but he backs them up. One of the things that he was like, well, Obama and Trump are essentially the same thing with their tax return, with their tax bailouts. And I go, no. Donald Trump Obama reached into my pocket, took more tax revenue, and then gave it to the banks. And gave it to not Ford, but gave it to Daimler Chrysler and gave it to Chevy, etc. Whereas Donald Trump took the existing tax money and gave it to me to spend how I saw fit. And there was a gigantic difference. I could either put it against my mortgage, or I could go out and buy Jack Daniels and hookers and whatever, you know. But it was up to me, the individual.
Hey, strip clubs accept EBT, or at least I've heard.
They do. There's signs that say they do. I swear to God.
Not that I've ever been to a strip club.
Strip clubs are, I've heard. Yeah, especially down in Mexico, right? But no, there's a huge difference in costing me more money, taking money out of my pocket and giving it to some corporation versus taking the existing tax revenue, albeit at a deficit, and giving it to me to spend how I see fit. And so if I want to support local business, if I want to support, or pay my mortgage, etc., those were our choices. So there's a huge fundamental difference in the two, and yeah, the idea that. Yeah, he spent way more on it, but he gave it to us, the individual consumer, to eliminate our debt. If we saw fit, and from what I understand, quite a few people did.
At the end of the day, I would rather keep my money than have my money given back to me after they've.
Amen.
Back in the day when gold coins were the thing, the way kings and stuff took taxes is they would actually have the gold coin. They would take little chinks off the gold coin, and that's how they taxed it. Because the gold coin was worth whatever, but the gold was worth money too. So they would take all these chinks and melt them down and make more coins. And eventually, these coins would just get smaller and smaller and smaller until they weren't worth anything anymore. And, that's kind of what it feels like the government does is, here, we're going to take your taxes. We're going to take our little chink out of it, and then we're going to give it back to you.
And we're going to say, be happy that we're giving you your money back. Which is ours.
Aren't you so happy what we've done for you?
Yeah, look at what we've done. Yeah, they have no idea. It's my money. You're getting.
I got the COVID-19 bill passed. I got you $1,200. No, you gave me back $1,200. And in more than 50% of the country's case, they're giving you $1,200 of somebody else's money.
Right.
Now, right, wrong, or indifferent, that is the fact.
That is the truth, right? Yeah.
If I can't. The numbers have changed since I've looked, but back in the early 2010s, something like 60% of the population effectively paid zero income tax to the federal government. Because of the rebates you got, it zeroed out any money you paid to the federal government. Now, this doesn't include your state taxes, the tax you pay on gas, Social Security, all of that stuff. I'm just talking federal income tax.
Right.
55% of people don't pay anything, which means if you get a tax rebate in that bottom 55%, you're being given money from somebody else.
Right.
In a government that doesn't make enough money to pay for its bills already. Right. And on top of all of that, you have a tax system. The IRS, if you look at the IRS budget and what it takes to run the IRS, right? Like just to run it. I'm not talking about how much it takes in or any of that. The cost of the IRS eats up like 65% of the population's federal taxes. 65% of the country pays taxes just to fucking run the IRS.
That's insane.
That's it.
It's insane.
Because if you take the IRS's budget divided by the number of tax-paying citizens, you get a dollar amount, and then you look at that dollar amount and how many people pay that in federal tax.
Wow, I never knew that.
It's absurd.
But golly, you said something there. Come back to it.
So this is the system of government that we as Americans have allowed to grow and manifest. There's not a liberal on the planet. John and I have got into a huge argument with one of our friends that's liberal on Facebook. Because those always work out so well. But
like 2 days ago.
Nonetheless, he's not going to listen to us. His ideas are not going to change. And the politicians he vote for aren't going to listen to us. Biden doesn't give two flying... And Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, you name the person on the left. They don't give two flying Fs about what I think or how I think things should be done. So I can't bend their will. Not without force. And I'm not a kind of person that likes... That becomes terrorism, I think, when you use force for political... It's pretty much the force and fear for politics is terrorism.
Well, if you tell the IRS no long enough, men with guns will show up to your front door and make you say yes.
So, for me, all I can do is hold people accountable. Here in Montana, the person we voted in as our governor is probably one of the stupidest fucking people I have ever seen run for governor in my life. Now, I don't know governors everywhere, but he is an idiot. And I mean, he might be a smart guy in the aspect of business because he runs his own companies and stuff, but he's an idiot. He's an idiot. And the only reason I voted for him was because the Democratic candidate was so bad. And that's what I was left with. I was left with picking somebody that...
The lesser of two evils.
That was going to hurt me the least. Right. Which guy was going to hurt me the least? But because I did that, now it is my responsibility as a voting person to hold that person accountable to what he should do and what is right.
Correct.
Because I voted doesn't mean I'm done and I don't have to worry about it for 2 years or 4 years or 6 years, depending on the election cycle. The only way the U.S. governmental system works is that the population, the people who vote, stay informed and stay engaged. They respond. If you don't think they respond, you know how often that their bills have died before they even get to the floor because news leaks about what they are and phones start exploding? And I don't mean literally exploding. I mean they ring off the hook.
They ring off the hook, yeah.
Because of that, there's so many bills that never even saw the light of day, never even got a bond. That is why we have the healthcare bill we have, because the one they were trying to pass got crushed so bad. The one we have was passed in committee, and they used a loophole to get it signed into law. It was one of the most bullshit, backdoor, shitty ways of getting a law passed, especially one that was affected as much as it did. because
from an administration that was
once everybody
preached
figured out what was
transparency.
going on, I mean, we got to pass the bill to see what's in it.
Oh God, remember that Nancy
Pelosi talking about that, or
I don't know. I think
if this bill here is, I think, one thing that people on the left and right can come together on, honestly, because nobody's innocent here. Some of the worst, in my opinion, some of the worst provisions in the bill, and I haven't looked at all of them yet. I'm probably going to find one from the Democrats that's awful. But the ones that I've seen so far that are the most awful provisions in this COVID-19 bill were passed by Republicans. Hands down. Not like,
right.
or not passed, were included and put
right.
in by Republicans. They were Republican-sponsored amendments.
Right.
And
$11 billion to bail out the USPS. Why?
there are an unbelievable amount of, it's 5,600 pages. It's 5,600 pages. So we're 1 day since it got passed.
Yeah, can't see. We'll wait to see what comes out tomorrow.
We were talking about it before, and I'm pie in the sky dreaming right now. But I really, really, really hope that Trump vetoes this. And with the public outrage that's growing, even though they have enough support to supposedly get past a veto, I am hoping so much that Trump vetoes this and they can't pass it.
Or just and talks and gives the general public go back on Twitter there, Mr. Trump. You make a list of all the things that you don't like about it.
I mean, the day when AOC, whatever her name is,
Alexandria
Twitch D,
yeah,
as Ben Shapiro likes to say, the venerable Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez Twitch Democrat. She got on Twitch one day and was on Twitch. So,
well, like you said, she was a Twitch content provider.
She's like a content creator. But
creator.
the day her and Rand Paul agree on something,
it's bad.
Something is really, 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 really wrong. When they it's not for the same reasons. Some of them are, but for the most part, it's not for the same reasons. But their path is the same. That there's something that needs to be given a second look. I'm not a fan of AOC. I'm not a fan. I'm never going to say I was, but the challenge with it is that you are writing laws that affect people's lives and there's no consideration given to them. 6 hours, I think, is what AOC said, right?
Yeah.
They had 6 hours to
digest read, and understand 5,600 pages. She's right. That's crap. That's a load of shit.
And at that point, you are passing law that will affect how people make a living, how people might end up in jail,
right?
How money we don't have is spent,
and where it's spent, right?
And
she rightfully called it hostage taking, and I agree with her. She was taking
because
hostage.
if you vote against it, now you're voting against the COVID-19 bill.
Yeah,
even though most of the bill had nothing to do with COVID-19, it's
right.
named the COVID-19 relief bill.
And you voted against it, and you see like the spots running 1.5 minutes at a time.
And that is not democracy, because democracy, and we're not democracy anyways. I'm not trying to say we're democracy.
Representative
that is not how politics needs to work. It can't work like that.
No, not in a representative.
It needs to work in a fashion where people can discuss the actual merits of the bill. They can't discuss the merits of COVID-19 bill because, one, they were only given 6 hours to talk about it, but two, there's 10 bazillion other things inside the bill that you're at this point you're not even talking about COVID-19 anymore. You're talking about gender studies in Pakistan
or the
Egyptian
whatever, military.
Yeah, 1.3 billion to the Egyptian military.
Asian Resurgence Initiative Act. I had to Google that one. I never even knew that existed. Like, what does it do? Why? There's a litany of shit that stuff that it does. But yeah, like I don't get it. She was right. They have taken Congress out hostage to give them that long to vote on such a gigantic bill. That's almost $1 trillion. That's almost half of our GDP. And
you look at the business world, right? When something like this happens, something big, right? You don't just get hammered with it when the finished product is done. You don't only see the finished product. When they're doing something this big, there's always, hey, here's a piece of it. Look at this piece. Look at this piece. We're doing this. We're working through it. There is a reason none of this was shown until 6 hours before they voted on it, because they knew that this would happen.
Yeah, they would say no.
Everyone would see the money inside of this thing, and it would just blow up. So that's the idea. Let's keep it all secret. We'll get it passed before anybody can say anything, and God help the person who votes against it.
Say no, right? the guy who did put together a committee and, understands what's going on in it. Yeah. Because that's what it's going to take, a team of people to read this thing.
And it's easy to blame. It's easy to blame the politicians. It's super easy. And I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's our responsibility to keep them and hold them accountable.
Correct.
Just because your guy won doesn't mean you don't make them do the honest thing. Because if you don't, they'll do whatever they want. Right. And in my opinion, that's what made the Obama administration so bad, is nobody was going to hold them accountable. The media wouldn't do it. If the media wasn't complicit, they were scared.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't mind how the media treated Trump if they treated every politician
the same way. Yeah. Dig into them. Say what you don't like.
Beat
right.
them to death. Because then you're holding them accountable. But the problem is if you spoke out against, and I had this happen to me, I don't know how many times this had happened to me over 10 years. If you spoke out against Obama,
you're racist.
You were racist. That was the only reason. The only reason you didn't like what he said is because you don't like black people.
Yeah, and they would come up with terms like, well, this is the only president in history who ever had to deal with this type of criticism. Really? I remember Bush being bashed relentlessly for every syllable, and I'll say it. Sometimes he made it pretty easy when he'd be like, I'm gonna educationify, you know. But notwithstanding that, like Obama wasn't treated any differently than that, you know. It just was on the other. She was on the other foot. But no, you talk about like local and, you know, I guess down ballot issues. I can give you an example of where it does absolutely work. Just like you said, I was in South Florida, and I was an Eagle Scout. So part of being an Eagle Scout is you had to be, you know, you had to understand the local and state and federal government. Was a big part of it, and understand what was going on around you. And I remember digging in, and there was like some construction downtown, and it had been going on for like 3 years. And then the county didn't have the funding, and the county said, well, we didn't get the funding from the state, and it just, you know, he did it kind of a thing, you know. And shift the blame. Well, they put up a sign, and it was like a DOT was widening a road. Businesses were starting to fail because traffic couldn't get in and out, etc. So they put up a sign. They were like, "Hey, if you need funding for this is in Palm Beach County, right down like where the courthouse was. Like it's not like some random thing. Like this is a big main thoroughfare. They put up a sign. Hey, call so and so in Tallahassee. You know,
with the phone number.
With the phone number, and that phone rang off the hook because every person who drove past there was just as annoyed as the people who own the businesses, as the politician, the courthouse that was affected, and all this. And within a matter of weeks, they had like rollers out there, you know, excavators and bulldozers, like fixing it, and it was fixed like very, very quickly. But it took the local population just in Palm Beach County, you know, which is big but not the whole state, calling Tallahassee saying, "Listen, you got to fix this. You got to fix it now. This is ridiculous."
Right.
You know, and it got fixed quickly, and it's one of those simple local issues that you're right. If you force them, you hold them accountable, they do it, you know. I don't know. What do you think?
I think
we about beat this to death.
We did. We beat it to death. I mean, we could go into more facts and statistics and just bore everybody to death. But at the end of the day, it's, you know, this. I think Trump's going to sign the bill. You know, I'm kind of wondering if he's. I can't tell right now if he's at the point where he's just like fuck this, I'm done. I'm going to go back to playing golf and being on TV shows and doing my thing, or if
I'm gonna hang out with a supermodel wife that speaks 5 languages, and we're gonna go travel the world.
If he's gonna be like, all right, we're gonna burn this motherfucker down on the way out the door. Like I don't know where he's at right now.
He has no political. And he's like at the end of his second term almost, but he has no reason to do it, no reason not to do it. He can do whatever he wants. It's
gonna depend on what happens with this COVID bill. I think it's probably gonna get passed. He's probably gonna sign it. I don't know. I can't imagine he hasn't signed it already. I'd have to look at the news. I'll keep an eye on it. But fingers crossed he vetoes it and makes some of these people answer for the shit they stuck in the bill and why there's stuff in here that doesn't have to do with COVID-19.
Yep, agreed.
I get pork barrel spending and some of the positives to it, but it needs to be related to the bill. You know, if you want to put something in the COVID-19 bill that has to do with funding a hospital or bailing out a nurses union or, you know, something along those lines. At least it has to do with healthcare.
And you can argue, we got more nurses to help do whatever. Yeah, I got you.
There's no reason any kind of foreign aid
or funding
should be in
for
a COVID-19 relief bill whatsoever.
I could see funding for schools, giving them more, I don't know, disinfectant wipes or masks.
Well, there is some of that in there. There's money to help schools upgrade HVAC systems and make them safer.
But I can see how that doesn't have to do with
anything. And that makes sense. That I'm okay with that kind of stuff. That stuff attached to the bill, whatever. Right. But the idea that you're going to stick money for Pakistan, Israel, Sudan, it makes no sense. And why there's military spending for Egypt. You know, none of this belongs in a COVID-19 relief bill that's here to help the American public, just to add to the deficit. I mean, think about that. My great grandkids are going to be paying for that, probably paying for that 1.3 or 1.5 billion or whatever it is we're sending to Egypt. They're going to be paying for that. I'm not going to be paying for it.
Right? Yeah, it'll be long gone, rotting
by the time that bill comes due.
Yeah. Which is not funny. This is the predicament we're putting our grandchildren in. Yeah. And there is here we go. There is, I was gonna say, there is, it's not all bad. There's 69 billion in there for vaccine distribution and testing, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's
and the
not all
PPP
bad.
and unemployment and all that stuff.
There's some good stuff
that's
in there.
fine, but
it's the rest of this ridiculousness that we object to.
Enough to get people by for 1 month in the bill, and that's what it's touted that it's going to be for, and then they pile in 3 times as much stuff for everything else.
But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast here. As always, like and subscribe, comment. I've been reading some of the things going on here in the live chat, and some of it's pretty interesting. But yeah, we want to hear what you have to say. If you liked it, let us know. If you didn't like it, let us know. Like and subscribe, please. That really helps us, and hopefully we can do this full time.
It'll be check down in the description if you're watching on the YouTube channel. There will be the links to the actual podcast, so you don't have to stream on YouTube. You can watch it through Spotify. I don't have the full list in front of me, but the full list is on Spotify, or the full podcast is on Spotify, so it's all there available for you guys to digest. We do short form content, long form content, and we'll be looking to grow the channel even more going into 2021.
Heck yeah.
As always, we appreciate your guys' support. I think this is fun doing it on Twitch, so we'll probably keep doing this here.
Yeah,
until maybe we get banned or something. I don't know. There's far more political people on here than us.
Can you be demonetized if you're not monetized? Like, what happens?
Well, I don't know. Telling the kid that we want to. I'm not even gonna get into it.
That dummy. He started that, not us. That guy. But anyway, as always, guys, Semper Fi.
We'll see you later.
See ya.